Hello everyone, welcome back to the MFW YouTube channel, and once again welcome back to some transfer talk, a rumour that has come out within the last 15 minutes of recording this video since I sat down in this chair. Norwich looking at yet another centre-back just 2 days after announcing the signing of Harry Darling from Swansea City. They want another centre-half to try and bolster up their squad upon the arrival of Liam Manning as their new first team manager. This one is Jakov Medic, the Croatian centre-half, currently at Ajax, spent last season on loan at VfL Bochum in the Bundesliga, couldn't save them from an inevitable relegation to the Bundesliga 2, where really Bochum looked quite out of their depth in Germany's top flight. But we'll get on to all of that in just a second. And unlike the Harry Darling video, we're going back to the normal style of the transfer talk videos here on the channel. We're going to be giving you information about the player, the season for them just gone, a bit about their past, and some more about the deal. Although this signing, there's still quite a bit to do. You know, there's a medical for the medic. You could argue with his name being spelt that way, but no, we'll move on into the nitty-gritty of the transfer, if you will. So first things first, 25 years old, so much like Darling, is entering the prime years of his footballing career. He's Croatian, did make an appearance for the Croatian under-23s a couple of years ago, however has never made a first team cap for his country. But so again, as I've just said, much like the profile of Harry Darling, Norwich, unlike last season where they were signing a lot of younger players who could develop into talents, it looks as if with the signings that they're making here, although you could argue apart from Jacob Wright, they're signing players, at least with Darling and now Medic, it looks like they're signing players who are in their prime years, players who have already been and done it at a decent level and are sort of reaching the peak of their physical shape and also their footballing abilities and their understandings of tactics and how the game of football is played. So Harry Darling, I believe 26, and now Medic's in at 25. It also helps bolster Norwich's central defence, that area of the team. I said this in the video about Harry Darling when he was confirmed as a Norwich signing. I thought Norwich needed another centre-half because they were very light in that area. You look at the first team centre-backs that are there. We now have Harry Darling, Jose Cordoba, who is still think he's 22 or 23. Shane Duffy, who is 33 years old and has sort of been touted with a move away from Carrow Road. And then the only other centre-back you really have is Rory McConville, who has 3 first-team appearances to his name and you would probably expect will go out on loan from Norwich this season. But as well with Liam Manning playing 3 centre-halves, again I said this in the Harry Darling video, this is why I felt Norwich needed another centre-back, and I'm very glad that they're looking at another one here to bring in Medic, because if they didn't, they will really, really paper thin at centre-back when you need to start 3. You know, the only other centre-back off the top of my head I can think of is Emmanuel Adegboyega, who is yet to make a first-team appearance. But let's go back on to the main focus of the video. Let's go back to Medic, and we'll go on as well. As I've just said there, he's a centre-back. So, you know, as I like to talk about all these points about players and their positions, but I feel like I've already done it before I've even gone on to the second point. So we'll swiftly move on from the fact that he's a centre-back. Right-footed. So, you know, we go back to where last season Johannes Torp loved signing left-footed players. Looks like Liam Manning has opted, no, well, we'll just get the right footers in. You've got Cordoba, who's left-footed. You don't need another one. So we'll go on to the next point, quickly moving on. He is currently an Ajax player, but only has made 9 appearances for them in the Eredivisie. It was, as we quickly touched on at the start, and we will in a second, he was on loan for the whole season elsewhere, but you know, you've got to be a half decent player if Ajax want you, especially, you know, although they signed him at the age of 24, you know, you still have to be a pretty decent player to sign for a club of Ajax's stature, you know, a European giant, you know, let alone in the Dutch league. You know, they're a really top end side, and you know that they don't exactly sign players because they don't rate them. They signed him for around €3 million, which works out at about £2.5 million. So a bit of smart business from them, and it's made even smarter really when you move on to the next point. Sorry to not really touch on the fact he's at Ajax much, but he's only made 9 appearances, so you can't really talk about it all too much. But we move on to the next point. Norwich would actually be paying the exact same amount of money Ajax did to sign him. I believe it was off Nuremberg, the German side. He spent 5 years in Germany, Medic. Has played for Nuremberg, SV Vehen, who I believe have flirted around the third and second tier of the German footballing pyramid, and then of course it went on then to Ajax. But no, it looks as if he will be coming for around £2.5 million. It works out at €3 million. There has been quite a lot of heavy interest with championship clubs around Medic. I believe West Brom were one of the other sides really having a detailed look and wanting to bring him into their side. But it looks as if reported by, at first it was reported in the Dutch Telegraph and then followed up on by Sam Seaman for the Pinken not long ago. It looks as if Norwich are leading the race. There is still, as said by Paddy Davitt of the Pinken, there is still quite a bit of work to do. You know, of course, fees have to be agreed, and then contracts, and then you have the medical, and then you can confirm the signing. So it's still a little bit far off, but this is a signing that Norwich look as if they're leading the race for, and could end up being done more quickly than first perceived, maybe for fans. But you know, once you sort of you see it, and then you go and watch maybe a highlight reel of a player, you get very excited and you think, oh, I just want him now. You know, we're linked with him. A deal's probably going to be agreed. Just get it done now. Get it out of the way, and all my excitement can reach its peak. But no, it's a player as well who Paddy Davitt has said that Ben Napper is a long-term admirer of, and you can almost see why. A player who, you know, realistically is still, you know, at younger years, but as I've said, he's now starting to approach the prime years of his career at 25. You know, he's seems comfortable with the ball at his feet, which is so important for centre halves in the modern age. Especially you look at Harry Darling, as we spoke about in that video 2 days ago. If you haven't watched it, just watch it after you've watched this one. But again, a player that Norwich need. They need centre backs who are comfortable with the ball at their feet because of their playing style, especially with Liam Manning, let alone Johannesov Torup before him. You need players who are comfortable because they're going to be having a lot of the possession. It's where your build-up play starts from. It starts from the centre-backs, who then look to play it through to midfield, who break the lines with passes. But no, this really seems a good bit of business. You know, £2.5 million for a 25-year-old who was obviously rated by Ajax, played, I think it was 24 matches in the Bundesliga last season, albeit for a relegated side. But no, it's a good transfer, you have to say. It's smart business. So going on to that last point, last season, as I touched on at the start, and I have done just then, he was at VfL Bochum on loan last season from Ajax to probably be a more regular first team player, as we've already covered. Only 9 appearances for Ajax, and after a season there, it looks like his time there is up. They clearly don't feel like they need him, or as well, Medic wants to be a first team centre back rather than someone who sits back and waits for an opportunity to get in the first team. You know, every player at any club at any level in football wants to play games. They want to impress through playing regularly, because it's no good if you just sat on the bench all the time and you can't sort of make a standpoint on matches. But it's, again, very good signs. You know, he has played in a poor side really out in Germany, but from many reports from the German media, even when he was at Nuremberg in the second division, it seemed like a brilliant bit of business at the time by Ajax to sign him. That was seen as a real coup and a great bit of business from the Dutch giants. And you know, even though he played in a team that was really out of their depth, and you know, there's only so much you can do as an individual player trying to save a team from relegation, just didn't work out for them in the end. But you know, it's sort of very similar in the German divisions really. With promoted sides, they do tend to struggle, much like here in England. But no, Norwich obviously saw something in the player, as as did Ajax at the time with signing him from the second division. You know, there's clearly a lot of talent in there. And Norwich, as I've already said and covered, they need another centre-back because they can't really go into a season with, if you include McConville, you know, 4 centre-halves for the first team. You need depth there. Realistically, you need, if you're playing a back three like Manning is, you need at least 6 centre halves. You need at least your starting 3 and then the backups to fall on. So Medic's coming in, may well end up being a first teamer. He may be picked over Jose Cordoba, who's didn't have the best first season in Norwich, looks a bit mistake prone at times. You know, Shane Duffy is ageing and has quite a few PR disasters around him at Norwich. And then, you know, Harry Darling is a brand new player who is proven championship quality. And now Norwich look to bring in Medic, who is proven quality in the second division of Germany and perhaps in the first division as well with how he did at Bochum. But it's a completely different story when you come to England, as many players learn. But what do you all think of the potential signing and the rumours around Jakov Medic coming to Norwich City from Ajax? €2.5 million. It's not a bad deal at all. But what do you think? Would you want to see him sign, or should Norwich perhaps pull out of this one and go for another target in the centre-back region? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section down below, and we'll see you for the next video of ours here on the MFW YouTube channel.